All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Dena. I'm going to be hosting the class this morning with my colleague Patrick Anderson, and we are going to be going over the searching and prospecting portion of the MLS, along with how to run a CMA. So first thing we're going to do here is jump right in. Right now, we are looking at the SFAR MLS dashboard. So we're going to come over here to searches and we're going to jump into the standard search. So today we're going to be showing you three types. We're going to be going over standard, hot sheets, and interactive maps, just because those are the most popular and best way to get your results. So let's go into standard. Go to drop down for searches, locate standard, hit select, and then we're going to go into the different criteria that you can enter for your client. Now, the first thing I want to point out here is to be sure that you keep an eye on this listing counter. Anytime you make a change, this is going to affect the counter, and depending on how many changes you add, it can affect it drastically. So you have your default property types, or you have your default criteria, I should say. Residential, you have active status. If you ever want to make any changes to that, you can go into admin and modify, or I'm sorry, your preferences, and come down to searching defaults and make any changes here. So let's go back to standard real quick and jump right in. So we have residential, we'll do single family. And right now we're searching everything across the board. So any listing that's entered into the NorCal Alliance or the super regional MLS, this is going to pull it because I haven't put any areas or districts to be specific. So right now we have 7,109 listings. But if I come in here and I put District 5, look at how drastic that changes. So we only have a few pieces of criteria entered in, and we only have 19 listings left. So if we were to go in and add pricing, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, that can potentially put our results to, single digits or 0. So always keep an eye on that every time you make a change. So for the sake of example, I'll just do 1 through 10, which is going to give me all of San Francisco. And that gives me 192 listings, but I also want to check on, let's say, some listings in San Jose. So you'll notice here that there's a different code from what we use because we're pulling that information from another MLS. So I'm going to throw that in here. Didn't change too much. Went from 192 to 197. So if you need to, you can go down a little bit more and you can go into, let's say you want to check searches. If you're looking for active searches, you can do a date range on when it was active or when it became active and if it's still active. If you're looking for other things like closed, pending, canceled, or expired, you can do the same thing. Then, of course, you can come down here to status date, which is a little too specific in my opinion, just because you're looking at a specific date that the status was entered. So I try to stay far away from that one and go on to things like price, bedrooms, total baths, parking spaces if need be. But I'm going to keep these right here for right now and just view the results. And when you view your results, you have a bunch here that you can see. So you can go through and see what would work for a client. If you see anything like this, you probably won't see these on your end. These are just, these are inactive or not approved listings. So anytime you see a yellow banner on your side or you see a prompt that says your listing has not been approved, just be aware that you have the listing set to an active status with an on-market date set to the future. You won't see these, but you're seeing them now because we have administrative rights in the office, and that's what this is coming from. So once you have this, the search criteria, what you can do is you can go into creating a prospect. And when you select this tab here, you get this pop-up window. And it asks you, are you adding a listing to a prospect card if you already have a prospect card? Are you saving as a new prospect? Or are you adding a search to an existing prospect? So as of right now, we're going to create a new one. So I'll go ahead and and save this to, you know what, I want to do it as MLS 102. This way we know it's for this class. And then we're going to go ahead and hit save. Now, right away, the contact name is already filled out. Manage as prospect is grayed out and already checked off, which is a good thing. You don't have to worry about that. So it's going to set it up perfectly. And then you're going to come down to the required fields, which are always in red or asterisk. Now, when you come over to groups, you have the option to type something in, but that may skew the data a bit. So I always recommend using the search tool anytime you see this icon next to a field. So once you select it, I'm going to throw this in as prospects, select OK. And of course, you always need an email because that's what we're doing here. We're sending off listings to our clients. So I'm going to use my work one. And if you have any CCs, go ahead and add them as well. And all this other information is pretty much just for their profile. You don't need to add anything. If you wish to do so for organizational purposes, by all means. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to the prospect options. Now, you'll notice that auto prospecting is not checked off. But right when we check it off, we jump right into a prospect scheduler. So I'm going to click this box. This pop-up window is going to come up, and it's going to ask me for a start date, which is going to default to today's date. And then it's going to end a year from now. Now, something that's really important here that always gets overlooked is the frequency. Now, take a step back and think to how many listings we had, right? Our search criteria was very, very broad. And we always want to start broad and then narrow it down because, like I said, the more criteria you add, the finer the numbers get. So this is also going to affect how often you want to send these emails out. If you have pretty broad-based criteria, you're going to get a lot of listings coming in. And if you send them out ASAP, which is immediately, so anytime somebody posts a listing as new and it fits your criteria, it's automatically going to fire off an email to your client. With a broad search criteria, that can be a little daunting. So you might want to do daily or weekly. Monthly but might be a little overwhelming as well. But it depends on how you and your client communicate and what your client wants. So we'll say daily. Now, it's going to go every day. It's going to send something out, and it's going to default to 9:40 because that's when we clicked the scheduler. You can set this up to whatever you like. If you notice that your client is more responsive after work hours, let's say 5:30, go ahead and leave it at maybe 5:40. On their commute home, they can jump into their inbox, see what you sent, and that might be where they get some communication going with you. So then we're going to go ahead and hit save. It's going to let you know that your changes have been saved and it's been updated. You select OK. And then we jump down here. So prospect searches is really just the search that we set up. And this name right here, you'll notice is in numerical, and that's pretty much for reverse prospecting, which I'll get into a little bit later. And the reason for the numbers instead of an actual name is because when that goes out to the reverse prospecting, they don't have the option to try to poach your clients. They just know them as a number, not necessarily a name, so they can't search them on social media or anything like that. Send auto prospecting email to agents. So this is saying, do you want pretty much a CC'd email to you so you know what your clients are seeing? If you do, how do you want it sent? Do you want a daily summary? Do you not want it at all? Or do you want to use the prospecting scheduler? Again, this is completely up to you. If you feel like you get the most communication at this time, you may want to set it up and use the prospect scheduler. This way you see what they see in real time and you can be prepared to chat with them about a property if they have any questions. If not, you can do a daily summary and kind of go from there. But I usually recommend going off the prospect scheduler. This way you and your client are on the same page. I know that can be a little difficult if you have multiple clients. So again, at your own discretion. And then what you want to include for the updates, you have price changes, status changes, and rejected listings. I would recommend to do all three. Reason being is because it keeps you in the know. Anytime your agent or your client has a question, you should be on top of it and say, hey, I see there was a price change. We didn't act fast enough for this other property, and now it's pending. There's a status change there. We might need to adjust our strategy. Or rejected listings. Maybe your client rejected a listing because there was something on the property they didn't like. Maybe they felt it was overpriced, and you see that there was a price change on one of the rejected listings in it. Now that it fits their criteria, you can present that back to them. So that's why I like all three. Now, sending auto prospecting emails to the prospect defaults to no, but that's the whole point of why we're setting this up. So I'm going to change that to yes and newly matched. Now, the updates that it defaults to here are a little different. Price changes is really important, and I think that's one that you should keep. Status changes, I would tend to leave off at first. Now, again, going back to strategy, and if you have a client that is kind of a sitting duck and not moving, or going off of your recommendations, and they're losing out on properties, then maybe you might want to turn around and include this later on and say, hey, look, we're seeing a trend here. We have to make sure that we're on top of things if we want to get you into a home. And then, of course, rejected listings, I wouldn't include that, just because if they reject something, they don't really want to see it. And if it keeps showing up in their feed, that's not going to look good on your part. I would say keep it on your end. If there is a change that you can turn around and present to them, look like the hero and do it that way. Don't let the system do it for you. Next option here is send auto prospecting email to CC. That's going to be completely up to your clients, of course. If they're going to go over it together, they may not want to have it CC'd. Maybe they want to look at it separately and then discuss, so maybe they do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit yes for the sake of an example. Email report format is really just what you're comfortable with. I personally don't think this is too important if you're going to end up using this next option here, which is Client Portal, which I would highly recommend. So, go into these report formats and see what you like, see what works, and select one and move forward. But again, when you come down here to Client Portal, I'd really recommend checking this off. What it is, and I'll show you in just a bit, but I want to give you an explanation first. It's pretty much the MLS's version of kind of like a Zillow or a Redfin platform for agent or for clients. Clients are, they almost default to these websites, so they're used to that format. And what this does is this provides an area for you to communicate with your client with, in the same type of format, so your clients are comfortable. Next thing we have here is the client portal activity alert. That's really up to you. If you want to see how often they're getting into the client portal that you set up, you can get email alerts, but you can also just view the activity within the MLS. So I usually leave this unchecked just so it doesn't bombard your inbox with updates. And then here is your cart maintenance for what you're putting into the prospect cart. Only display the listings with the following statuses in the client portal and prospect cart. So it's really up to you what you want to throw in there. Coming soon is a good one to have. If they can see it, you can click on it and kind of gives them an idea if they want to, jump on a property that's going to be available soon. Contingent show and contingent no show might be a good one too. Again, if you have that lazy client who isn't really taking your advice, that might be a good way to kind of get the ball rolling there. Now, we spoke about reverse prospecting a little while ago, and what this is if you're an agent who has a listing coming up, you can use reverse prospecting to see who has search criteria that fits your property, and you can reach out to that agent and say, hey, look, I have this listing on, it's coming soon. I think this would work really well for your client, and you might be able to work a preemptive deal. I don't really think the market's there right now because of how things are. You may want to take as many offers as possible, but in the slow times, this may be a good one. And of course, your prospect code is what we were talking about up here. You can match that, and then allow email to agent. That's really up to you. If the agent who's listing wants to reach out to you in order to make that connection with your client, if you're into reverse prospecting, then I would suggest yes, so they have a contact point. So now that we've set all this up, I'm going to hit save. What that's going to do is going to bring me to this little area here, which isn't the portal just yet, but it looks a little different from the MLS, right? You have the same listing details here, and then you have multiple listings that fit your criteria. So what I'm going to do in order to get to the client portal is hit update. Now, from here, you get the client portal invitation. So it's my email, or well, you know, the emails that I set up for my clients, but it's coming from my domain. Say, oops, MLS 102. And if you want, you can send a copy to yourself just to make sure that you have it, or send me a red receipt to let me know that my clients have opened it. Now, what's going to happen is once they click on this link here for view listings, it's going to take them to the portal that you've set up. So you would hit send now.
Andrew, this is Hutton. I just have a quick question. Are you able to customize that message if you want to change the content to personalize it for your client?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can go in and put whatever you want. This is just like the body of an email. So this right here is pretty much just a template that Rapatoni provides. I wouldn't suggest messing with the link.
Be careful about the link, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with that because that's static. Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't really mess with the link, but I'd go into detail and say, hey, look, you know, per our conversation, you were looking for, you know, a 2-2 with a nice yard for a small dog. Here's some of the properties that I think we have. Take a look by selecting the view listing link, something along those lines. They click it, it takes them here. They can go through. They can reject the listing. They can love it. They can add notes. Where are my notes at? They can post notes here. You can have private notes just for yourself as the agent and or for the client. And then you have public where you can talk back and forth with the client and agent, and you can keep it all in this platform and see what activity your client is running. So once we do that, you'd hit send. I'll hit send just for that. You're going to get a little pop-up email here that says it was sent and it was gone. So then what happens is you get taken back to your one-line grid of the inventory that you have, right, from searching your search criteria for your client. You can select this, the client portal, and you can preview the activity. You can send another invitation if you think that they didn't select it, and they can go back and forth. Let me see if I have the invitation in my inbox. It doesn't look like it showed up just yet. No worries. We'll continue with the class, and if I find it, I'll bring it back up. So that's setting up the client portal. Oh, I'm sorry, Ed, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is interactive, right? So if an agent chooses to ask, allow their client to create searches, are they able to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, they are. And you know what? I thought that was on the, let me see. I thought that was on the options there.
And we find we live in an interactive world, right? Clients are out there finding properties, and they really want to be part of that process often. Right. But the fact that you as the agent have the ability to set that and decide whether or not you want your client to engage and create their own searches,
hey, Andrew,
powerful. Yeah.
Yes, I can take it. I can share the screen. I got your email to me.
Oh, cool.
Oh, perfect.
So
I'll share that.
Awesome.
I'll act as the client and show everyone.
Perfect. Go for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Andrew sent me the email with the client portal link, and what I did is I went ahead and clicked on it, and what I see here is the search that Andrew made for me with all the listings that he put in the search using his criteria. And then additionally, what I can do is I can run my own search as well from the top, this new search button at the top here. And as you can see, it's a very similar layout, but simplified from the search that we see in the MLS. We have the property types residential. And I can select a property subtype of single family residence, as well as the price, the city, San Francisco, zip codes, bedrooms. So let's try to make this a bit more specific. So I'll do total parking spaces from 1 to 2. And I'll do price from 1 million to 2. And let's see what that shows up. And let me make the city San Francisco. Okay. 70 listings, perfect. So I'll view the results, save that as my search. And here we have an entirely customized search from the client that they were able to do themselves with the client portal. So with that being said, Andrew, is there any other part of this that we'd like to cover?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to share my screen and then show everyone
Perfect.
the activity on the client portal here. This way you see everything in real time.
And you can save those searches with different names. I know, Patrick, you went with the default of my search, but imagine if you're building out District 10, District 7, et cetera, you have the freedom to do that, right?
So right here in the activity feed, you see that a new search was created, my search, and then of course we have the client portal that was opened by Patrick at 9:53. So you can go in, see the listings again. Now we have 199 matched because of the new search. No agent recommended yet or no client rejected yet, of course, because we just opened it. And then if you go to searches, you have the different types. So of course we have the one that I created and then the one that Patrick, our client, created. And if you ever need to, you can go ahead and delete it after, of course, you speak with your client, let them know, hey, here's what's going on. And then if you have any comments, you can go back and forth in this area too. Now, your client is still going to get an email version, of listings, but once you get them in the portal, they're going to stay in the portal because it's interactive. You can see everything without having to go through bodies and bodies of emails. It's just a lot cleaner and they're more familiar with this type of layout. So if you ever need to go back to it, you can. You just find client portal and look for the activity. So yeah, with that being said, what I want to move on to now is hot sheets, because sometimes agents like to go through listings before their clients see them and then email them, secondhand or firsthand, I should say. So we're going to go down to searches, select hot sheet, and it's pretty much the same thing. You're going to see a few different fields here because you have a date and time range and changes. So these are the first things that you're going to see instead of property type. So changes from today, right? Or yesterday, I'm sorry, yesterday at 11:44 a.m. through today is what it's gonna give. If you want, you can also do days back. Now, days back only allows you 21 days max, but you may want to see, let's say 15. We'll go 15 days back. And here are the changes that you want to include. Now, again, keep an eye on that listing tracker on the top left. So I want to see new listings. I want to see price reductions and back on markets. I'm going to do residential, single family. Let's keep it consistent with 1 through 10 and San Jose. Drop this down to 232. Let's do active. Dropped it down to 139. Now I can view the results here and see what I like. All right, you can go through all these, check the ones you want, and uncheck the ones you don't want. But the main thing here is, one, you can also throw them in your prospecting cart. But again, if you don't want to because you want to view them first, you can save and schedule. Now, when you do this, you're going to hit save and schedule, and you're going to come down here and select more. And when you select more, you can add this MLS 102 hot sheet. You can display it as a one-line grid or whatever else you feel comfortable with. If you want to use the map view, you can do that. And after this, once Patrick shows you the interactive map, you may want to go that route. But I'm going to leave it as one-line grid for now. Schedule email. Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do here. So I'll do daily. Latest listing activity, MLS 102. This way I know what it is. Start date and end date is pretty much the same as the prospecting cart that we set up, so that's fine. When do you want to send it? I think we had, what was it? It was 5:40 p.m. What we had set up for the other one. To myself and Patrick. Now, I know you see our work emails here, folks, but if you have any questions, please do not contact us here because this is for internal use only. Always use MLS@sfrealtors.com. And then sort options. If you want to sort by status, if you want to sort by price, and then you want to, change it maybe to status. Maybe price is more important than status at the moment. And days on market, right? So once you hit save, it's going to set it up. And at 5, so there we are, hot sheet has been saved. At 5:40 every day, Patrick and I are going to get an email saying, hey, look, here's what fits your criteria. Here's what you need to do. You go through it as the agent, see what you want, and then send it off. Now, I know I used Patrick's email and my email for both agent and client in this example, but you can do it either way. You can send it to them that way, or you can send it to yourself first and then forward it to them. It's really up to you and what works best for your workflow. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the baton over to Patrick and let him present. Yeah, of course. You all set? There you go.
Perfect. Okay. So now I'm going to show the interactive map search on the MLS and also a couple CMA reports that hopefully show you the comparables for your search. So from the dashboard on the MLS, you'll want to go to searches and then hit the interactive map drop-down button. So this takes you to an interactive map, and I'm using my default search criteria of all active residential listings, but we'll want to change the criteria to something maybe a bit more narrow. And a great way to do that is using the draw tool on the interactive map. But first, I'm going to step back and show you all that on the interactive map, you can see all of the listings in our super regional NorCal Alliance, which includes other associations such as Barry's and Metro List. And in fact, if you go to the layers at this top bar here, and you go to MLS, what you can do is you can select NorCal Alliance areas, and that actually shows you all of the NorCal Alliance areas that we cover in our MLS, not just in San Francisco. So we have San Rafael up here, Sausalito, and then of course we have our districts and sub-districts. And what I'll do is I'll close this and change my search criteria just to make it so that we can see all of these layers that we have going on here. So once I close this, we get a much clearer view of all the layers, and we're continually adding more layers just to cover as much as possible. But when I zoom in on San Francisco, I get a good sense of all the districts and sub-districts that we have on the MLS. If I go back to the layers and I deselect NorCal Alliance, and instead, if I only want to say the districts, I can select the MLS districts, and that takes me to all the districts that we have in San Francisco for a broader view of what we have going on in the city. I can select MLS sub-districts, and with that, we can select other layers that we have from tax data from CoreLogic. So for example, I can select foreclosures, defaults the last 3 days. I can also select schools. And so these show markers of information that might be helpful for you or your client to get a sense of the neighborhood you're in. So if we zoom in, and let me go back to the search criteria of residential, and let's go ahead and let's do a draw tool to get a radial search. So what I did there was I selected the circle, and I have a radial search that I just made, and that includes all the listings in that area. I can also select the draw tool for a freeform drawing. And also I can do a square tool. The last tool I can use is the polygon. And this is a way to get a more refined geometric shape of an area by first selecting a button and then drawing lines around an area. And what you want to do is you want to go ahead and select all the corners of your polygon and then hit the last box in the middle there. Okay, so now that I have my polygons, I can display all the listings on the one-line grid. And so that gave me 18 listings. And what I can do is I can do two things. The first I can do is I can select all of the listings if I want to run a comparable. And then I can go ahead and click the CMA button in the top left corner. So you'll see a few different options in the CMA options just because I'm staff, but one I recommend is CMA. This is a really fast, easy way to get some statistics and some averages on the listings that you found in your search. And so as we can see here, it immediately ran a CMA report with the address, the district and the sub-district, beds and baths, parking spaces, square feet, and as well as the averages, the highs and lows, and the median. So it's a great way to just really quickly get some statistics on your search. You can also do this not just from the interactive map, but also from standard search, as Andrew was talking about earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and close that PDF, and we're going to go to Cloud CMA. So Cloud CMA is a great way to perhaps send a CMA that you want to send to your client in the form of a report. So if I go ahead and click on CMA again, instead of the CMA option right here, what I'll do is I'll select the click here, Cloud CMA, and that takes me to Cloud CMA's portal, which I'll show you really quickly, can also be accessed from the SFAR dashboard. In your essential tools, it's this button right here. If you click that and you select the create new report, and CMA is going to take you to the exact same location as we're working with right here. So I'll go back to this page, and what this page has shown me right here is all of the MLS numbers that were included in my search. So this is a really easy, quick way to run a really beautiful report that you can customize yourself. I won't go into a lot of the details in the report, but for now, let's just start with naming the report. So I'll do Andrew's report. And we have to do the subject property. I'm going to do 301 Grove Street, although this might come up with some interesting results simply because the square feet is really large, but let's do 3 beds, 3 bathrooms. You can do advanced information as well as include a cover photo. So now that I have all of my listings here, I'll go ahead and select fetch listings. Okay.
I can give you another address if you'd like.
Yeah.
Residential address. So just go ahead and use 56 Exeter, EXETER. There you go.
Thanks. Okay. let me just remove some listings just in case. Cloud CMA allows up to 50 listings, whereas our CMA report allows 500. So let's see if that works there. Okay.
I did also notice that handy auto feature where it can pull them for you as well.
Yeah, that's the one I usually use, that
The
little
quick and dirty.
checkbox. Yeah,
Yeah.
quick and dirty.
Yeah.
Just the good thing about the exact listings is if you have something that really, really fits your property that you're running a CMA for, of course, you're going to want to
Mhm.
use them. And that's a good part of it.
Okay.
And
Sorry about the hang up there.
you're good.
Trial and error. It's good.
Okay, so now that we get to the organized listings page, we'll set the price for 301 Grove. I'm just going to arbitrarily set a price. And what we see here is all of the listings that were in our search. And we have the summary of prices. We can include the details and adjustments. So this shows all the pictures and the description, as well as the sort option. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just go through this. You can add a listing. You can also take a look at some further details of the property, the subject property, but I'll go ahead and customize the report here. Okay, so once you've done your CMA, you're taken to this customized CMA report, and this has a number of customizable fields that you can change according to your individual needs and your client's needs. But there's also a lot of out-of-the-box solutions that just give you a great report with very little work. So if I select title page, for example, there's an automatic title page for the comparative market analysis you have here. We can change that as needed. There's a cover letter with some default text, but we can change that as well. And we can also remove sections. For example, if I want to remove the Our Company section, I just go ahead and remove that. Once I'm, yeah, go ahead, Ed.
I think you can also, if let's say, you know, we're going through the process, but there's also the why and the things that you want to do in a CMA, because you want to also showcase yourself and potentially your brokerage. So you do have the ability to upload, you know, brokerage content. For example, oftentimes there's, you know, your company and where it sits with other companies. You want to be able to promote yourself, not just the listing data. So I believe, as Patrick is showing you, you can remove pages, but you can also upload custom PDFs if you might have something from your marketing department that you might like to add.
Exactly. So there's a lot of customizability, as Hud said, and there's a lot of out-of-the-box solutions as well. But with that being said, let's go ahead and run this report and publish it. So that's publishing, and there's two ways to view this. The first is view live. There's actually three ways. The first way is to view live, and that actually sends a link directly to Cloud CMA's portal. The second way is to do a PDF, which I'll view here. And the third way is a slideshow. So you can view the PDF here, you can view live, and you can always come back to the CMA from your account in Cloud CMA. And then you can also email the report, copy the PDF link, copy the live link. And so if we select email report, you can select your client's email.
One of the advantages of sending the email or live is that will those properties, if those property statuses changes, you know, maybe a day after you've ran the CMA, was that a live link essentially?
Yeah, so those listings.
That's the advantage, yeah.
Yeah, that's the advantage. And so you can include a PDF report and a live report if you want, if that's easier to use. You can change the subject, the intro, and then you can preview the email. So if I were to send this to Andrew, you'd get something very similar to what we see here.
It's very much like the prospecting, just because you have a default language in an email that's going to go out, this is your opportunity to customize it so it's more personalized, for sure. We did have a question about uploading a PDF. When you get a moment, Patrick, can you show how to do that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I can take questions after we're done with
Oh,
the
great.
workshop
Perfect.
as well.
Thanks.
So maybe we'll save that for the end there. But
Okay.
So let's go back to the report. And so as we can see here, we have the comparative market analysis. Andrew's report has a cover letter that you can change the text of, a brief description of what a CMA is, contact information that I could have provided at the report creation process. It has a beautiful map of the listings that we have, the listings that we have in our CMA. And finally, what we have is a great detailed report of all the listings that we're dealing with. So we have the pictures, we have some details, we have some features, the price, days in the market, remarks, public remarks, and then all of the pictures that the listing agent put for the listing. And so you can just scroll down here and you get all those listings in this beautiful report. Took 5 minutes to create. And so this CMA is a great way to send to your clients. If you want a really fast way to gather statistics and data on your listings, you can go ahead and select the CMA option from the MLS. Okay, so that's all I have covered for the CMA. So that being said, I know we have a question about adding a PDF to CMA.
Yeah, I think in general, just kind of looking at these options a little bit more. And as we're talking this through, guys, feel free to drop in some questions on what Andrew discussed, as well as what Patrick, so that we can make sure that your time is well spent. If you have any direct questions, please just drop them in the chat. But as you can see, we've got the Tom Ferry pages. He's a well-known real estate advisor, if you will. And there's quite a bit of content there, but it's important, I think, from my perspective, is making sure that you act as the client on all of these. Set yourself up as a test, making sure that you're sending yourself a CMA so you know exactly what your client is going to see, so that you can essentially speak to the system. And this is the same goes for when we were discussing the prospecting. Setting yourself up as a test client is the best way for you to understand and have empathy for how your client is receiving data. So it's something that can't be understressed. We have all these systems. There's a million ways for people to get information. And oftentimes we sort of just want to do the set it and forget it and not think about it. But it's our job to understand our systems so that when our clients ask questions, we don't sort of, look at them with a blank stare and say, I don't know. So give yourself that opportunity, set yourself up for success. And then I'll give it back to you, Patrick, in terms of showing how to add the PDFs. Sorry.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, so all the ways that you can add additional content through here is with these options right here. So if I wanted to, first of all, reset to the default theme pages, and go ahead and select that, and that just sort of hits the reset button on all of these options, and also the order by which you've set them as. If you want to add further pieces of information, such as a PDF, you can go ahead and select one of these by selecting the plus. And so that actually added that right to the bottom here. You can go ahead and drag that around by just selecting, make sure you see this icon on my screen, and then just drag it around. So you can really add as many of these as you'd like, and you can also remove as many as you'd like. And so I definitely recommend, as Hud said, play around with each of these options and find the one that works best for you. There's a lot of customization. You can go ahead and select the edit. And so there's a lot of different ways you can change this. And also, of course, you can insert links. You can include pictures, include videos.
I may not have been clear. Can you upload your own content?
Okay. Okay, got it.
Yeah, because here's what typically happens is all these, these agents are working at brokerages and they have a bunch of marketing materials because they don't want to just show the boilerplate stuff that we might have here. So they want to be able to upload a PDF, and I believe you can do that. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll before we make the recording live, we'll just check this, get into a little more details on the of adding your own content. I'm almost positive it's available. But we'll review that before we push this video live.